he's saying. He's saying, when Jesus died on the cross, you died with him. When he died, I died. When he died, we died. Say it out loud with me. I died with Jesus. It's amazing. And now some of you might be thinking, hang on. Didn't Jesus take my death? Didn't he take my death? Yeah, he did. Jesus took the death penalty for sin, the eternal death penalty for sin. But when we came into a relationship with Jesus, we became one with him. And in that unity, we experience not just his resurrection life, but also his death. And in that death, it is a death to sin. Now let me ask you something. Are there any degrees to death? Are there varying degrees to death? No. If you're dead, you're dead. You could get hit by a semi, you be dead. You could have a heart attack, you be dead. You could think of any number of ways. If you're dead, you're dead. And what is it about a dead person? Dead people can't think. They can't move. They can't speak. They can't succeed. They can't fail. They can't do right. They can't do wrong. They're dead. Right? Complete and total loss of life. Nothing is left. And so Paul says this in verse 6. We know that our old self was crucified with him in order that the body of sin might be brought to nothing. To nothing. So that we would no longer be enslaved to sin, for one who has died has been set free from sin. So he's saying, when Jesus died, we died with him, and when we died with Jesus, sin completely lost its power. How awesome is that? Isn't that good news? That sin has completely lost its power. And in verse 6, in chapter 6, verse 6 through 7 in the Passion Translation, thank you, Pastor Roger, for sending me this verse this week. I want to read this because I love how it phrases it. And this will make it a little bit more real for some of you, like the descriptive language. It says, could it be any clearer that our former identity is now and forever deprived of its power? For we were co-crucified with him to dismantle, which means to take apart the stronghold of sin, to tear down the castle of sin within us, so that we would not continue to live one moment longer to sin's power, submitted to sin's power. And it says, obviously, a dead person is incapable of sinning. Isn't that just obvious? A dead person is incapable of sinning. So the old self was crucified, but your new spirit in Christ is awakened to God, and your new spirit in Christ is incapable of sinning. Did you know that? That your spirit in Christ cannot sin. It's amazing. The reality of Christ in you, the hope of glory. The Spirit of Christ in you cannot sin. And check it out. He keeps going. Verse 8 through 11. Now, if we have died with Christ, we believe that we will also live with him. We know that Christ, being raised from the dead, will never die again. Death no longer has dominion over him. For the death he died to sin once and for all. But the life he lives to God. So you also must consider yourselves dead to sin and alive to God. I love that last verse, verse 11. Consider yourself dead to sin and alive to God. You know, when Paul says consider, it's kind of like saying reckon yourself in another translation. Consider yourself dead to sin. What he's not saying is, I want you to be different than who you are. He's not telling you to try to be different than what you are when he says consider yourself, like try harder. That would be kind of dumb and really kind of unfair of Paul, you know, because that's such a big reality that for him to say, hey, try to just be different than what you are. It'd be like, hey, bro, you know, that's easy to say. No, it'd be dumb to tell a blind person, hey, consider yourself being able to see. You know? It's like, what? No. Like, he can't see. Why would you say that to him? It would also be dumb to say to a Gator fan, consider yourself a Georgia fan. There's just no way that's going to happen. I'm not going to consider myself that way. This is not true. And so Paul isn't saying, I want you to strive to be dead. I want you to try to be dead. I want you to work a little harder to be dead. No, he's not saying that. He's saying, you are dead. You're completely dead. It's done. And so what he's saying when he says, consider yourself, he says, just give it, just have the conviction. Just recognize that this is true. Just come into the agreement and alignment with the truth of the matter, which is that sin doesn't have power.